I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and if you like today's video, please subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. You know all the things to do. What you're looking at right now is the MC2SIO from Helder Game Tech. I will have a link in the description. This is a rather remarkable piece of kit that lets you play games off a micro SD card through the memory card slot of your PlayStation 2. It works with both the original model and the PS2 Slim that they released later in the console's life. And I'm going to show you some video of it in action. Before we get to that though, you need to understand that this works in tandem with something called FreeMcBoot. It lets you boot a custom firmware on your PlayStation 2. You can either buy a FreeMcBoot from Helder Game Tech, or you can get one made from somebody who already has a FreeMcBoot. I will have some links in the description as well as a video showcasing how I made one of my own. But this will not work by itself. You need a FreeMcBoot in slot 1 to use it. Your FreeMcBoot will also need to be version 1.966, and if you have a previous FreeMcBoot with a previous version of the OPL loader, it will not be able to use the microSD format cards. So it may be worth it just to buy one from Helder Game Tech, because even if you have a previous one, it probably won't have the version of FreeMcBoot that you need with the OPL that you need. And once you have all of that and put your ISO files on a microSD card, it will read them and generate a games.bin file showing a full list of all the games that you have available. Now they do have to be ISO format, which is basically a dump of the entire DVD. And those file sizes can be quite large. You can get up to 4 gigabyte size, and if it's bigger than 4, you're going to have to split it into 2 to get it to load properly, because you will not be able to drag and drop it onto your micro SD card. Now, make sure your micro SD is formatted FAT32 so that you can get the files onto it, whether it's on a Mac or a PC. Either one, you'll be able to drag and drop it, but it has to be in FAT32 format. When you select a game from the OPL menu, you'll see your screen flash a bunch of colors as it did before loading Dr. Mudo here, and that just means that it's working. You might compare it to the old ZX Spectrum loading where you'd get rainbow colors around the display or on the display while the game was reading in from tape. It's sort of the modern version of that. And as a result, I think it's actually kind of charming to watch all the colors flashing while it's reading the game from the micro SD card. If you're looking at the MC2SIO itself, you'll see the red light flashing, which tells you that it's reading from the micro SD card. So you'll know it by the colors on the screen and what the device itself is doing. Now, I have run into a few isolated cases of games that will not read in, even though they're in the proper ISO format, or will trip up once they load in, which I will attribute to this being a very experimental piece of tech, and it can't handle all edge cases all the time. The two that I found, one surprised me a little and one didn't surprise me at all. Guitar Man I thought would work, and it got as far as letting me select a single player campaign and get to the opening stage, but after the dog was done talking to me, it just froze on the now loading page and never got any further. The other one that I found that didn't load from an ISO file was Alien Hominid. And that one didn't surprise me because if you're using Swiss on a GameCube, the exact same thing happens. It appears that it's going to run, and then it just freezes up on you. On the PS2, it does it even sooner. It freezes right on the opening title screen where you get the logo and the information about the game. Whereas on the GameCube with Swiss, it'll appear to start the game, and then in the very first level, it'll freeze up. So Alien Hominid just doesn't seem to work well with being read off micro SD cards. Whether it's PS2 or GameCube, it's just not going to happen for you. Best to own an original copy of Alien Hominid or play it in emulation if you really want to play it that way. Now, aside from the obvious advantage that you can play backups of games that you already own, you can also do fan translations and hacks. And this is what I'm loading up right now. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood never got a North American release and was never localized into English, but somebody went to the trouble of patching in an English language option. So you get the original Japanese voiceovers, but you get English language dubbing, which gives it a very appropriate feel given it's a game based on anime and manga, so it feels just like you're watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in Japanese with English subtitles. I think that's kind of appealing, and I want to look for more projects like this where fans have taken the effort to localize something that was never sold in North America. And I think that's a whole new way to play PS2 that I've never experienced before. You could easily find fan translations for things like 8-bit and 16-bit Nintendo games, but if ROMHacking.net was hosting patches for PS2 and beyond, I didn't know about it before now, and it's a whole new world for me, so I'm really going to enjoy digging into that and finding out what all is out there for games that never got sold in the United States or Europe or Canada or Mexico or anywhere else where there would be likely to be English-speaking, reading, playing game players. And this is the sort of thing that can make games more accessible to a lot of people. What if you live in a French territory and you want it in Spanish? What if you live in Spain and you want it in French? You can do whatever you want here. The world is your oyster. Find the patch that makes it accessible to you and enjoy gaming the way you want to game. Now, as you can see from the menu here, I have a mix of file names and the serial numbers that were used for licensed PlayStation 2 games. You don't have to keep those original file names with the serial numbers. You can relabel them into anything you want to make them more understandable. You don't have to memorize those product codes. It's going to work no matter what you have. If you have the .iso at the end, then it's a disk image and it's going to show up on the menu. Unless, of course, it's not a PlayStation 2 game, in which case, what is it doing on your SD card anyway, because it's not going to work with this. If it's a PlayStation 2 ISO and it's meant to be played on a PlayStation 2, it's a good chance it'll work. Like I said, there have been a couple of edge cases I've found that didn't work, but I imagine a great deal of the library does, and there will probably be some developments from the people behind MC2SIO that will expand the compatibility even further. It should be noted that even though I've been plugging Helder Game Tech here, he's not the original creator of this technology. It was discovered before he started manufacturing his own version of it. He just kind of put it into a more accessible form where he had the boards printed up, he had the 3D molding made, he got it to that level of manufacturing to make it more accessible to people. And I should also note that if you're going to make your own FreeMake boot, you need a PlayStation 2 memory card with the Magic Gate certification on it. If it doesn't say Magic Gate, then you're not going to be able to update it with the latest OPL and the latest FreeMake boots. For some reason, non-Magic Gate PlayStation 2 memory cards, like third-party brand cards, they just don't work right. If it says Magic Gate, it'll update. If it doesn't, you're probably out of luck. And if you're wondering why this was ever thought up in the first place, well, it's pretty simple. You could previously load disk images from the USB ports on a PlayStation 2, either the original or the Slim, but it's USB 1.1, and the read speed for that USB format is really slow. So a lot of games that were loaded that way, the video would freeze, the gameplay would stutter, it couldn't keep up with the speed necessary to transfer the data. That's when it was discovered that the memory card slots on a PlayStation 2 have a faster read speed than the USB port. So somebody just needed to come up with a way to exploit the fact that you could read in data from the memory card slot faster than you could from the USB ports. And once that was done, MC2SIO was born. So this is a wonderful, albeit experimental piece of kit, and your results may vary. It took me a little bit of legwork to get this working myself. I had some issues out of the box, but Helder was very helpful with tech support and getting everything together for me so that I could showcase this to you and see that it works for myself. It wasn't quite as plug and play as Macho Nacho Productions, who was the first video I saw about this technology, but once I finally got it working, I have to say it was pretty remarkable and I was very happy with the results. So feel free to give it a try. Like I said, I'll have links in the description showing you what, where, when, and how. But if you want to do this yourself, get a free McBoot, get the MC2SIO, get a micro SD card, format it to FAT32, and then drop your ISO backup files onto that micro SD card and put it in the slot of the MC2SIO. Once you do all of that, boot it up, go to the OPL loader, and it will populate a games list from the games that you've loaded on your micro SD card. At that point, have fun. The world is your oyster. Play backups, play hacks, play anything you want to play. It's up to you what you do with your PS2 at that point. And if you have a Slim, this may be the best way to do backup games because a lot of the other methods involved using the expansion bay of the original model PlayStation 2, and of course the Slim doesn't have that. They removed the ability to slot in a hard drive or a networking card, so you want to have some way to load games without having a hard drive bay, and this is the way you can do it. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been the Retro Hunting Adventures. New content drops every single day, so if you subscribe, there will always be something new to check out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.